When Socrates had said that, Cebes rejoined, "The other things you say, Socrates, I find excellent, but what you say about the soul is the subject of much disbelief. People fear that when it's been separated from the body, it may no longer exist anywhere, but that on the very day a person dies, it may be destroyed and perish as soon as it's separated from the body, and that as it goes out, it may be dispersed like breath or smoke, go flying off, and exists no longer anywhere at all. True, if it did exist somewhere, gathered together alone by itself and separated from those evils you were recounting just now, there'd be plenty of hope, Socrates, and a fine hope it would be that what you say is true. But on just this point, perhaps, one needs no little reassuring and convincing that when the person has died, his soul exists, and that it possesses some power and wisdom." "That's true, Cebes," said Socrates, "but then, what are we to do? Would you like us to speculate on those very questions and see whether that is likely to be the case or not?" "For my part, anyway," said Cebes, "I'd gladly hear whatever opinion you have about them." "Well," said Socrates, "I really don't think anyone listening now, even if he were a comic poet, would say that I'm talking idly and arguing about things that don't concern me. If you agree, then, we should look into the matter. Let's consider it, perhaps, in this way. Do the souls of human beings exist in Hades when they have died, or do they not? Now there's an ancient doctrine, which we've recalled, that they do exist in that world, entering it from this one, and that they re-enter this world and are born again from the dead. Yet if that is so, if living people are born again from those who have died, surely our souls would have to exist in that world, because they could hardly be born again if they didn't exist. So it would be sufficient evidence for the truth of those claims, if it really became plain that living people are born from the dead and from nowhere else. But if that isn't so, some other argument would be needed." "Certainly," said Cebes. "Well now, consider the matter, if you want to understand more readily, in connection not only with mankind, but with all animals and plants, and in general, for all things subject to coming to be. Let's see whether everything comes to be in this way. Opposites come to be only from their opposites. In the case of all things that actually have an opposite. As, for example, the beautiful is opposite, of course, to the ugly, just to unjust, and so on in countless other cases. So let's consider this. Is it necessary that whatever has an opposite comes to be only from its opposite? For example, when a thing comes to be larger, it must surely come to be larger from being smaller before? Yes. And again, if it comes to be smaller, it will come to be smaller later from being larger before. That's so. And that which is weaker comes to be presumably from a stronger, and that which is faster from a slower, certainly. And again, if a thing comes to be worse, it's from a better, and if more just, from a more unjust, of course. Are we satisfied, then, that all things come to be in this way, opposite things from opposites? Certainly. Now again, do those things have a further feature of this sort? Between the members of every pair of opposites, since they are two, aren't there two processes of coming to be, one to the other, and back again from the latter to the former? Thus, between a larger thing and a smaller, isn't there increase and decrease, so that in the one case we speak of increasing, and in the other of decreasing? Yes. And certainly, and similarly with separating and combining, cooling and heating, and all such. Even if in some cases we don't use the names, still in actual fact, mustn't the same principle everywhere hold good? They come to be from each other, and there's a process of coming to be of each into the other? Certainly. Well then, is there an opposite to living, as sleeping is opposite to being awake? Certainly. What is it? Being dead. Then those come to be from each other, if they are opposites, and between the pair of them, since they are two, the processes of coming to be are two? Of course. Now then, said Socrates, I'll tell you one of the couples I was just mentioning. the couple itself and its processes, and you tell me the other. My couple is sleeping and being awake. Being awake comes to be from sleeping, and sleeping from being awake, and their processes are going to sleep and waking up. Is that sufficient for you or not? Certainly. Now it's for you to tell me in the same way about life and death. You say, don't you, that being dead is opposite to living? I do. And that they come to be from each other? Yes. Then what is it that comes to be from that which is living? That which is dead. And what comes to be from that which is dead? I must admit that it's that which is living. Then it's from those that are dead, Cebes, that living things and living people are born? Apparently. Then our souls do exist in Hades. So it seems. Now one of the relevant processes here is obvious, isn't it? For dying is obvious enough, surely. It certainly is. What shall we do then? Shan't we assign the opposite process to balance it? Will nature be lame in this respect? Or must we supply some process opposite to dying? We surely must. What will this be? Coming to life again. Then if there is such a thing as coming to life again, wouldn't this coming to life again be a process from dead to living people? Certainly. In that way too, then, we're agreed that living people are born from the dead no less than dead people from the living. And we thought that if that were the case, it would be sufficient evidence that the souls of the dead must exist somewhere, whence they are born again. I think, Socrates, that must follow from our admissions. Then look at it this way, Cebes, and you'll see, I think, that our admissions were not mistaken. If there were not perpetual reciprocity in coming to be, between one set of things and another, revolving in a circle, as it were, if instead coming to be were a linear process from one thing into its opposite only, without any bending back in the other direction or a reversal, do you realize that all things would ultimately have the same form, the same fate would overtake them, and they would cease from coming to be? What do you mean? It's not at all hard to understand what I mean. If, for example, there were such a thing as going to sleep, but from sleeping there were no reverse process of waking up, you realize that everything would ultimately make Endymion seem a mere trifle. He'd be nowhere, because the same fate as his, sleeping, would have overtaken everything else. Again, if everything were combined, but not separated, then an Anaxagoras notion of all things together would soon be realized. And similarly, my dear Cebes, if all things that partake in life were to die, but when they died, the dead remained in that form and didn't come back to life, wouldn't it be quite inevitable that everything would ultimately be dead and nothing would live? Because if the living things came to be from the other things, but the living things were to die, what could possibly prevent everything from being completely spent and being dead? Nothing whatever, in my view, Socrates, said Cebes. What you say seems to be perfectly true. Yes, it certainly is true, Cebes, as I see it. And we're not deceived in making just those admissions. There really is such a thing as coming to life again. Living people are born from the dead, and the souls of the dead exist.